Okay, so team, it's a pleasure to be here, and as Krishna told, we go a long way, and I have a special liking for Krishna and what he wants to achieve in life, and have been a supporter. So today I'm going to talk about be an amazing leader at your amazing organization. And this title itself says a lot, and I will come to that. What do you have to do to make your organization an amazing organization, and how an organization becomes an amazing organization, and how you become an amazing leader, and how you contribute and become an amazing contributor. All of those questions that apply to literally anyone in any organization will be covered here. Just a brief introduction of mine. Can we go to the next slide, please? Krishna did introduce a bit, but I'll just walk through. I have had phenomenal experience with some of the people. Some you know, some you may not. My first job was at Hewlett and Packard in California. Worked with him. I worked with Steve Jobs. Actually, if you come to my office, you will see that Steve had written for me. I can see it in my office right now. Vivek couldn't have done without you, signed Steve Jobs. I worked with Michael Dell and John Chambers. So worked with phenomenal people and learned a lot from them. And that is something I'm very proud of, but also I'll share what I learned from some of these people. We can go to the next. So as Krishna said, very quickly, just to establish my credibility with people who do not know me, I have 6 patents, US patents. After I became manager, I stopped filing patent on behalf of my group. Otherwise, I would have something like 30 patents. So, but 6 patents in my own name, an instrument I invented. You see that picture in the middle. 2 books I contributed to. A lot of awards, from Chanakya Award by Public Relations Council of India, Indian Army. I am a very near and dear to Indian Army, and I have spoken to almost all the borders, at Rajasthan to Himachal Pradesh to Ladakh to Assam and so on. Lot of good interactions with Army, and I can talk about Army a bit if there are any questions or if we have time. I got an award by US thing on US Society on IT Man of the Year in 2016, and that was for using technology for driving social change. That was the theme under which they gave me IT Man of the Year. And 2000, before I left US, I was Who's Who in USA. So now with that gives you some of my experience, and when I share something, you will have some credibility on my advice. So let's go next then. So let us first talk about organization, right? And then I'll come to individuals. Of course, individuals make organizations, but lessons from some successful companies. And we can go to the next slide. This is a book some of you may have read, Built to Last, by Jim Collins from Stanford. And what he did, just in 2 minutes I'll describe. It's a fascinating book to read. Older book though, but he compared 9 pair of companies who 50 years back were at the same level, 50 years from the time of publication of the book, which may be 15 years old. So at that time, about 65 years back, Boeing and McDonnell Douglas were at the same level. IBM and Burroughs were at the same level. Ford and GM were at the same level. GE and Westinghouse were at the same level. Sony and Kenwood were at the same level. Disney and Columbia were at the same level. And there are some other companies as well. I've just given examples of some of these companies. So what he did is, these companies were comparable 65 odd years back. And then he followed them for 50 years. And then he looked at both the groups and see what happened. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so these were all public companies. So public performance is one way to measure their success. And as you can see in this graph, if in 1926, if you had put $1 of investment in the general market, which is like an index, your money would have become $415 in 1990. If you had put that same dollar into half the group of companies, which he calls comparison companies, that would have become $955. But if you had put the same dollar in 1926 to visionary companies, that would have become $6,356. This is just one measure of success. It is not the only measure of success. But what happened? Why is there so much difference between the performance of visionary companies, as he called it, and comparison companies? What made that difference? That is what the whole book is about. So then the conclusion is, and I'll let you guys read the book yourself. The conclusion from this study is, we can go to the next slide, please. So some myths were very clear. And these, by the way, also apply to individuals. And I have mentored a lot of people over the years, 40 odd years. So I can tell you these are not just corporate success myths, they also apply to individuals. So what are these? Well, successful companies exist first and foremost to maximize profit. That is the belief. It's a private company. It's not a social enterprise. It's a private company, for-profit company. And their job is to create maximum profit. That was the belief, right? Not true. What he found was visionary companies or the successful companies pursue a cluster of objectives, of which making money is one. Okay, so they are not there only to make money. They have a number of objectives, and one of them is making the money. They are equally guided by core values and sense of purpose beyond making money. These are for-profit companies he's talking about. They are equally guided by core values. So they have some core values, then they are honoring those core values every day. And the purpose of making money is sort of guided by that as well. Yet paradoxically, he says, they make more money than purely profit-driven companies. So the lesson from this book is that successful companies pursue a cluster of objectives, of which making money is only one. And I have been part of some very successful companies. I can tell you that that is the case. And as I said earlier, these also apply to individuals. In my experience, I have seen that individuals who have chased money have not been able to actually become rich. But people who are driven by a cluster of objectives, of which making money is one, they have also made money, but they have also led very successful and happy lives. So both for individuals and corporates, this is an important objective. Now, you are luckily working in a company that is driven by a cluster of objectives anyways, and the purpose is very clear. I do not have to explain you. You are very, very fortunate to work in a social enterprise. Can I say that that to your company, Krishna, social enterprise?
Absolutely, Vivek.
Yeah, so you are already working in a social enterprise, which is a new set of companies that did not exist 50, 60 years back. My own son is working in San Francisco in a company called a company in the sector of social enterprise. So you are lucky that you are working with a company that has very clear purpose and is run by number of values. So you are already working in an amazing company. Now, half the job is done. You have found a company that is running well, and it is following multiple objectives, not just making money. Let's go next. Now, how do you become proud and amazing member of this amazing organization? Let's go next. Okay. So be a proud contributor for a high performer and a high performer at your company. How do you become that? That is what everyone wants to do. Anyone you want to talk to in your company or any other company, they say, well, I want to be a proud contributor. I want to be a high performer. So what is then stopping them from being that? Let me show you the way that has worked over the years for me. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, so number one thing you have to do as leader is develop knowledge and skills. Competence builds confidence. Confidence is the hallmark of leadership. So you need to spend time, effort, everything in developing knowledge and skills that are needed to do your job well. Let's lay out the whole slide, please. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So here, the first task I have is develop depth and breadth of knowledge and skills you need to achieve your goals. Your goals as per, in this case, your professional goals and company's goals. For that, you need to have subject matter expertise in your area. Whatever you do, you need to be very good at it. Don't be a mediocre person. A mediocre person will deliver mediocre results. It's very, very rarely that a mediocre person. So how do you become an exceptional or an outstanding person is by knowing your subject very, very well. Passion about knowledge helps you develop intuition. So many things, many decisions, when they come to you, just because of intuition, you can make those decisions in the lack of information, and those will go right for you. And again, all that comes from deep understanding of the business you are in, and deep understanding of your job, etc., etc. You develop gut feeling. Just from gut feeling, sixth sense, you say some things and that they turn out to be true. For that, again, you need to have deep understanding of your subject and expertise in it. Development of skills requires a lot of effort and discipline. Please understand that. It is not a one-day job. It is not just doing this course or any other course. Development of skills is a long process and requires a lot of discipline, hard work, and effort. Let's go to next. Okay, another one I said, it's probably got blocked. I am a big proponent, and Krishna knows me, read 100 books, all right? Everyone, especially younger people, I give a challenge, including both of my sons, read 100 books. You will become a different person if you read 100 books. That is one of the mantras I can share, and I'll talk about it maybe later as well, or maybe I can answer some questions. So summarizing this slide, in your subject matter expertise, in your job, in your role, you should have deep expertise, you should know the subject very well, and you should develop a good intuition of how things work, and you can make a lot of decisions based on that. I'm not saying you make the decision only based on gut feeling. When the data is there, you obviously will look at the data and take that into account. But a lot of decisions leaders have to make without having complete data. And that is where your passion for knowledge, your subject matter expertise helps. And I'll come back to read 100 books later, but do read 100 books. Yes, next, please. So the skill that is the most important one that takes people forward is actually leadership skills. And leadership, I define, this is my definition, is ability to motivate yourself and your team towards achieving a goal and getting the best out of you and your team, even in adverse circumstances. That applies to the current situation, is leadership. So two messages here. You cannot become leader of others if you don't lead yourself first. You need to get the best out of yourself first. You need to lead yourself first, and then you can lead your team or your working group or whatever you want. So ability to motivate yourself and your team towards achieving a goal and getting the best out of you and your team, even in adverse circumstances is leadership. That is my definition, and I can answer again some questions if you have on that later. Let's go to next. So why leadership is so much talk? Just type on Amazon and go and say leadership books. You will see 100 books there. Some companies invest 10% of their GDP in training the leaders of the future. I'm glad that Krishna is running this initiative to actually help create leaders for his own institution. Why is that so important? Let's go next. You can lay out the whole slide. So leadership is not just for people at the top of an organization. It is for everyone. Like I said, first you have to lead yourself. So you can't say leadership is not for me. When I become a manager or when I become a lead a group or a team, then I will worry about leadership. Not really. You have to start leading yourself, and that will help you become a better leader. It has been observed over the years that people with leadership skills move up rapidly to leadership positions. They are ready. They have many things that make them obvious choice for leadership positions. But true leadership cannot be awarded, appointed, or assigned. It is earned. You will see many cases that people follow some people, irrespective of their title or age or anything. These people have leadership skills, or they have developed leadership skills. I, for one, do not believe that leaders are born. I believe maybe some leaders are born, but a lot of leaders are made through hard work. And so leadership quality can be developed, leadership skills can be developed, and that is key for yourself, as well as your institution, your organization. Go next, please. So I'll just talk about 3 leadership skills. I mean, the literature is full of leadership papers, leadership books, etc. We will not have time to talk about. I can talk about 7 skills that are critical for leadership, but here I will talk about 3 that I think are very important for people at your type of organization and in your type of roles. So let's take one by one. Leaders are liked, like I said. Let's go to next. So you will see that leaders are very likable, right? And the reason is they do certain things. This is my favorite one that I used to talk about at Dell. Krishna will remember. Leaders touch the heart before they ask for hand. So you need to touch the heart of the person who is working with you before you ask for their hand. If you keep asking for their hand, one day that hand is going to disappear. You need to know the person behind that hand, and you need to touch the heart. Connect with people one at a time. All leaders, Krishna alluded to it, but in my 30-40 years of career, I have had literally 0 attrition. Actually, people have taken permission to go. They would say, they'll come to me, they'll show me the offer, they will say, this is the job, should I take it or not? In many cases, I've said, yes, this is a good one for you, and they have taken the offer. In many cases, I said, this is really not great for you, and people have declined. So literally no one in my 35-40 years of career have left me, and the reason is I touch the heart before I ask for the hand. How do you develop that? How do you become likable? A few tips here. Focus conversation on his or her area of interest. People love to talk about their interest. Well, you may be interested in that, but the other person may not. So learn to talk about his or her area of interest. Understand that no one wins an argument. It is not important to win an argument. You can make your case, and if people buy it, they buy it. They don't buy it, they don't buy it. Don't be a reformer, but be genuinely interested in improving people around you. And that has been my probably reason for success. I have taken a lot of pride in making people success who have worked for me. And that I learned again from people who I work for. So these are very important things, and be very humble and approachable. No arrogance. You may be busy. All those things are possible, but I think it's important that you remain humble and approachable. So these are just a few tips, but bottom line is you need to be likable. People want to be around leaders who they like. They don't want to be around people who they don't like, even if they are their manager or whatever. So again, leading is by heart, managing is by business card or power. So managers, nobody really wants. They like leaders around them. So that is what you need to do as a first step to become likable by your colleagues, by people. 360-degree actually. Let's go next. Leaders earn respect. They are not just likable. They need to be respected. So you will see a lot of people you may like, but you don't really respect them. How do you earn respect? By making sound decisions, admitting your mistakes, and putting what's best for their followers and the organization ahead of their personal goals, right? Personal agendas. Very, very important. You do not earn respect by putting yourself first, talking about yourself, interested in yourself, promoting yourself. How can you earn respect that way? So you may be likable, but still may not be respected. You need to be both. You need to be likable and respected. And you can do that easily by paying attention to few things that I pointed. Leaders maximize their assets and resources that they have for the benefit of organization, not for themselves, not for getting their promotion. That may happen or not happen, that's separate. But the respect you generate is when you see the person or the leader who is leading you is committed to the cause of the company, cause of your project, cause of the customer. Those things create the respect in the leader. So you have to become likable and you have to earn respect, both. Let's go next. And then you have to earn the trust. Now, earning trust is a very interesting part itself. Like General Norman Schwarzkopf says, leadership is potent combination of strategy and character, but if you must be without one, be without a strategy. So what you have to have is a character. You have to show your character. What is character? How can you show? How can other people see that character? Well, yes, for some of those are thinking simple things that your grandmother taught you. Basic values, telling the truth, not lying, those kind of things. And some of them are the values you live and die by, both your values and your corporate values. So if you follow those, then people develop trust for you. They not only like you, they not only respect you, but they trust you and they trust your judgment power and say, okay, this guy can be trusted and I'm willing to give my, in some cases, even life. So in military, you will see many generals have been trusted so much that people have jumped from hoops for them, literally giving their life. So character. Defining your character is very important. I have said that to many young managers who joined me over the years, is in the first meeting, you tell people who you are going to lead, who you are. Who are you? Why should they really care about you? And so it is very important for your team to know who you are, what values you will live and die by. And then obviously they should somewhat align with your corporate values, and you need to honor corporate values. So corporate values, number one, your personal values, number two, there should not be inherent conflict there. And then that should be very clear to your people. If they see you living and dying by those values every day, they will develop phenomenal trust in you. The more important one also is when you become a leader, you lose right to think about yourself. And this is another thing that earns trust. Are you really promoting yourself? Are you doing it? Are you taking credit for these sort of in a not right proportion, etc.? Team watches that, right? So it is very important that you pay attention to this. Let's go next. Okay, now you have earned, you are likable, you are respected, and you have their trust. Now, leaders are known for delivering results. What is the difference between a successful leader and not so successful leader? All the successful leaders, whether it is Mahatma Gandhi or any leader, corporate leader, Narayan Murthy or Steve Jobs or any one of these people you see, you will see that they have delivered results. The leaders that failed in this process sometimes are remembered, sometimes are not. Now, how do you get results? So, as a leader, you need to drive the right culture of rigor. This is very important for all of you. Rigor is thorough adherence to the process as well as intentions of the process. So whatever process your company has decided to follow to do certain things, you have to follow that, not just as a tick mark, but the intent of the process has to be followed. So if you are, again, I'm not sure what type of work most of you do, but take an example of Dell or Cisco. A lot of people write codes, and in writing code, they take shortcuts. They compromise some processes. That is not rigor. Rigor means really nobody is watching you, but you are still following the process and intent of the process. This is very important. At Dell, we used to say, inspect what you expect. Very important. So doing that will require difficult decisions, and you have to follow them as well as your team has to follow them. This is very difficult at times when you are getting late, project is getting delayed. Should you not take shortcuts and just meet the deadline? The answer is no. You need to actually still follow the process that has delivered good. Why certain processes are there? Because they have delivered some results, good results for your previous projects, and that is why they are put there. And if you try to take the shortcuts, you will actually compromise something, and that execution is generally, in many cases, it is complete waste. You have to go back and do it again, or the customer is not happy or whatever, and then the whole purpose is defeated. This will also be a test for you as a leader, and you will be watched. What will you do if you are a leader of a group that is getting late and there are some problems in the project? Would you hide them and say, go ahead, meet the deadline? If you are writing a software code and you know there are some problems, but 80% of this looks okay, would you actually go ahead and release it? These are the questions that as a leader you will be expected to answer, and you will have to answer. Not only answer, you will be watched to see if you walk the talk, or all the rigor and process and all of that is just for other people. You will take the shortcut when needed. That will not create trust, respect, or even people liking you. Let's go next. Okay, then comes the passion. If I have had the fortune of working with a lot of successful people, you heard the 4-5 names that I talked about or Krishna mentioned, but I have worked with lots and lots of people in all kinds of fields, in many, many different ways. And I can tell you one common thing among all successful people is passion. These are very passionate people, and passion does amazing things in you. It really does magic. Let's go all the way in the slide, please. There may be one or two more. Yeah. So let me just give you one example. The passion. I'm a very, very big believer, and Krishna is you want to see a passionate person, you need to just look at Krishna, how passionate he is. And what happens with passion? I'll tell you in a very simple way. Human brain is literally divided into two parts. You can say inner core, outer core, or left or right, however you want. Some part is driven by logic, and some part is driven by emotion. Actually, a large part of your brain is driven by emotion. If you talk to people and you ask, I typically in the room, I will ask this question to all of you: what percentage of brain do you think you use? And people will answer all kinds of questions, but the fact is that Einstein used only 6% of his brain. So if 6% of brain use produced Einstein, guess what we are using first, and two, what potential do we have. And the reason why it is so difficult is because all our education is about logic. So the logical part of the brain we train well and we are trained to use them, but the other big part of brain we actually do not know how to use because it does not understand logic. So now the logical part of brain is much more powerful. Sorry, the emotional part of the brain is much more powerful than the logical part of the brain. And again, I'll give you an example that is simple, and I wish I was in a face-to-face class here. But I generally ask in the hall, how many of you have cried in a movie? And tell me the truth. And except one or two brave hearts, almost all hands go up that yes, I have cried in the movie. So then the question becomes, why do you cry in a movie? You know that this is not true. You know this movie is going to end in 10 minutes. All of that is just not happening in reality. But what has happened here? What has happened here is that movie has emotionally appealed to your emotional side of the brain. And now that part is so powerful that logic cannot prevail over it. Right? So that is how powerful the emotional side is. And now, how do you charge that emotional side? Because that side only understands emotion, not logic. Your logical part of the brain has to show the passion, and the passion signal can travel to the other side of the brain. And now your whole brain is working for whatever you want. And that is what we call Aham Brahmasmi. The whole universe supports it. Sari kainat koshish karti hai. So all of this is because now the universe is supporting what you want. So passion is that emotion that actually allows you to use your whole brain, and it makes you as a different human being, very, very powerful human being. So be passionate about what you do. No matter what you do, small thing, big thing, doesn't matter. Be passionate about what you do. Let's go next. Yeah, so this is my invention. The invention I did after my PhD. I developed this instrument, and what I want to show here is it's not important for you what does this instrument do, but how I developed this and how passion played a role in this. Right. Um, I just after PhD I was started my job at Hewlett Packard, and I had given a goal to myself that I want to achieve this level of financial independence. Sort of status, etc., at this age. And so I gave that goal, but now what do I do? And I, to just cut the story short, I had no resources. I didn't have green card. My wife was a homemaker and a volunteer, etc. So how do I do this? How do I make it happen? So I figured out a way that, okay, if I invent something and license it to a company, actually I can achieve my goal. And I became so passionate about this. So I found a problem, and then I worked on that solution. And I was so passionate about it that I would have hard time sleeping. I would go to sleep and then suddenly wake up with one idea or the other. And I will then not go to sleep because I'll forget that idea. That is passion. That is passion, guys. How many of you actually are getting your ideas on the projects you are stuck or the problems you are stuck? If you are not, if you can sleep well, I say that to all professionals, you are not really passionate enough about what you are doing. So to cut my story short, my wife told me that why don't you put a pad and pencil next to your next to the bed and write your idea and go to sleep so that you can work the next day. And I did that, and I'll write many ideas. I'll wake up many times at night, and then in the morning I'll look at it. 9 out of 10 ideas were useless. But that was not the point. The point was I was thinking, trying even in my sleep. And within 9 or 10 months, I developed this. I got the idea, I patented this, and then I licensed it to a company in Boston and earned royalty on this for 17 years. This instrument was bought across the world, and there was no other instrument that did what this did for 17 years. So that is the power of passion. Let's keep going. The other thing that you will see in successful people is excellence. Anyone you know outside your current environment, your friends and family, is because they have achieved certain level of excellence. Whether it's Amitabh Bachchan, Lata Mangeshkar, Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, Prakash Padukone, any one of these, or even in professional world, Narayan Murthy, or anyone you want to take, right? Why do you know them? It's not because they have made money. Money they have made, but because of excellence. And everyone I want in my advice to all professionals, including my own sons, is to pursue excellence. Excellence requires depth. Today, in today's world, people are getting so much information that they know very shallow world and in a lot of breadth. So they have breadth because they are reading all kinds of things, from WhatsApp to blogs to internet to this, that. 2 points there. One, availability of information is not knowledge for you. Secondly, you know a lot of breadth, a lot of things you know, but do you know anything in depth? And let me give you an example. Rahul Dravid is my neighbor and a very close friend, and I have had long discussions with him about excellence and so on. But let me tell you, do you know anyone? And these are the questions that are answered best when you are face to face, but that's okay, we'll do it. Do you know anyone who is a good player of cricket, tennis, badminton, and hockey? No. Why do you know Sachin Tendulkar? Why do you know Prakash Padukone? Because they have played one game and played better than anyone else. Are there people who play these 4 games or 10 games well? Yes, they do. I'm sure in your school, you had many people who played multiple games very, very well. So what happened to them? They're playing with Indranagar Club or something like that, guys. They never crossed that boundary. You need excellence to actually cross that orbit where you are seen differently, right? So excellence is very, very important. Everyone cannot be a Sachin Tendulkar. I am not a Sachin Tendulkar. I'm not a Narayan Murthy. I'm not a Steve Jobs. Doesn't matter. But in certain areas, I am a big sort of excellence fan. So you push excellence in the area of your likeness, bigger, better, and higher than you are doing it today, and keep going further and further. So excellence is very important. Now, you can lay out the whole, yeah. So you must have read this book where they say 10,000 hour rule. If you do certain things for 10,000 hours, you start approaching or moving towards excellence. Okay, so 10,000 hours is what? 10,000 hours rule is 7 years of working life. If you work 8 hours or whatever, and you work 200 days a year like normal person does, it takes 7 years to push that if you do all those things right. That is also fine. If you start to achieve certain level of excellence in the area that you care about, even 7 years is fine. But let me tell you what very successful, passionate people do. They work on it 7 days, 24 hours a day. And that includes me. We are not physically working 24/7, but we are mentally involved, engaged with certain problem. I gave you the example of my innovation. I was literally working 24/7. If you do that, the same 10,000 hours you get in how many days? 450 days. So in year and a half, you have reached certain level of excellence. And that is why you see people who are passionate. Only those people can push this level of excellence. But if they do, in year and a half, they have achieved something that other colleagues of theirs will take 10 years, 7 years, 15 years to get there, even if they get there. So pursue excellence. Let's go next. Another one of my favorite, have a role model and a mentor. And they are two different things. Okay, I'll explain. So first, step that you need to take from today is surround yourself with smart and good people. Okay, not just the people you like. There's no harm in socializing with people you like and your colleagues or your classmates. That's fine, but you still need to surround and spend whatever time you are spending with very smart people. So I and my wife had made a rule after a marriage, when we moved to US, is that we will make friends with people who can at least teach us one thing. So not just people we like. I mean, they're people you like, but they can also teach you one thing. So why not make friends with those rather than only people who you like? Although there's no harm in making friends with people like. But surround yourself with people who you can learn something from, and be open to learning. Be open to appreciating. One big problem in India I see is people are not open to appreciating. They can't praise anyone. Their praise is immediately sort of but you did a great job, but why does that but have to come there? Why can't that but come after 2 hours, after 1 day, 2 day? Why can't you praise someone openly and also appreciate it so that you can learn from them? So surround yourself. They are your first informal mentors if you want to uh, talk to them. Now, mentors and role model. Role model, there's difference. Role model is someone who you cannot be like, but he or she is your role model. Narayan Murthy could be your role model, as an example, right? Somebody can say Rahul Dravid is my role model, etc., etc. But even though Rahul I like very much, he's not my role model. I don't want to become like him. I'm not a cricketer and so on. So I can do two things. One, I can just say, what do I like in Rahul? And be like him in that value. So what is Rahul famous for? Integrity. What is Rahul famous for? He did whatever it took in cricket. That was an interest of country. I don't know how old many of you are, but he was a wicket keeper for a long time. Even though he would come one down, he did wicket keeping because India needed that wicket keeping. So can we learn something like that from Rahul? Absolutely yes, and he could be my role model, or Narayan Murthy or someone. But have a role model. I say that for a company as well, Krishna. Every company and every person should have a role model that gives you a framework, and that framework you can follow to move in that direction. A role model is a source of inspiration, gives more concrete shape to your dream to become like them. Know them, read about them, build values like them, even copy them. Right? Whatever you can do. If you can't reach them, everyone cannot reach Rahul Dravid, right? So that's okay. You read, you follow, you do whatever, and see what can you do, what can you learn from him. And I have even said there, copy them, right? Let me give you an example of Ben Kingsley and Gandhi. I don't know how many of you have seen Gandhi movie, but in Gandhi movie, the Gandhi role was played by Ben Kingsley. Actually, I'll advise every single one of you to go on Netflix or wherever and see Gandhi. And you will see Ben Kingsley doing phenomenally well in playing Gandhi. Actually, when Ben Kingsley was selected to play that role, there was a lot of hue and cry in India that how can a non-Indian play Gandhi? But you see Ben Kingsley and you see how well he has done. Now, the point I'm going to make here is that Ben Kingsley, before he started playing Gandhi, actually he came to India, he traveled India, he started living like Gandhi. He started sleeping in the ground, he started doing charkha, he started became vegetarian, he started wearing clothes like Gandhi. And guess what? He talks about it in his book that he started thinking and becoming like Gandhi. So even by just purely copying your role model, you can actually start moving in that direction. So have a role model. In terms of mentor, a mentor is there to tell you what you don't want to hear. A mentor is not for having good time and just praising you, hey, you are great and this and that. Encouragement is also needed, no problem with that, but a mentor is there to tell you what you don't want to hear. Constructive feedback is critical for anyone's growth. Again, unfortunately, in India, Just like we can't give appreciation, we also can't take constructive feedback. People become defensive right away. They start giving examples of why they are not that way. You don't have to do that, guys. Nobody is perfect. I have done my performance reviews all 40 years, and in every performance review I have been found that something I can improve. Nothing wrong, but I still went all the way up the ladder. So it's not like if you have that shortcoming, you are not ready to go up. You can, but you listen, act. Some things you can address, some things you may not. That's life. But mentors are very important, and that's why you see the quote there. I'm a product of great mentors, Indra Nooyi from Pepsi. Let's go next. I love this quote from my favorite Steve Jobs. If you want to make everyone happy, don't be a leader, sell ice cream. Krishna, this is very, very good for you or anyone else. Leader should not go after, oh, everyone should praise me. Sell ice cream then, make everyone happy. You want to be leader, you will have to make some tough choice, and sometimes they'll be difficult. So this is a very favorite quote of mine. I think this is something I kept on my office all the time, also because I have so much respect for Steve Jobs. But amazing simplicity, but very powerful quote. Let's go next. So guys, that is what it is all about. Be an amazing leader at your amazing organization. Let me just summarize it for you, and then we'll open it for questions. Number one, I told you that an amazing organization is which is not there not to just make money, but is also there to have broader set of objectives, which can be decided by the founders, but it has to be broader. It is in society, it is in a country, it is in a world. It has to do multiple things. Luckily for you, you are working for a social enterprise, whereas a big part is, in some ways, broader objectives. So you are already working on an amazing organization. So have a lot of pride in it, and be proud of yourself to be working in that organization. Then we said, how do you become an amazing leader, an amazing contributor, and so on. And we talked about what skills you need to develop to actually become that. So we started with how you become likable. Only likable people are supported by their peers. We talked about how to earn respect if you don't have respect. So, you can't really go beyond a certain level without respect. Just people liking you doesn't do it. We talked about that. Then we talked about how to become respected. Then we talked about how to earn trust. Then we talked about the skills and subject matter expertise you have to develop. In skills, we talked about the leadership skills, and I talked about 2 or 3 leadership skills that you need to develop. You need to be very passionate about what you do, extremely passionate about you do, and then you need to go towards excellence in whatever you do. And if you do all of these and develop the skills, have a mentor, have a role model, nobody really can stop you from achieving whatever you want for your organization, for yourself. It's success, and more success. Thank you very much. I am open to any questions you have.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vivek, for this thing. Quick question from my side, right? I want to go back to the role model thing.
Yes.
So, like I have role model, and there are certain people and gods also, like where you kind of look up to, right? But what happens is when there's certain things you like about them, and when you go back to thick of things, right? The action where the action is happening, there is a sense of loss, in the sense you're not able to replicate that quality that you want to do, or you want to kind of practice that. So how can, in the churn of things, what is your experience of translating the things you like in your mentor or the feedback they're giving into the actual practice of who you are, right? How does it become a body of your own, your quality? What is that churn? Can you give a sense of that?
Yes, excellent question from someone who has actually tried this and has worked halfway or something like that. So first, my compliment to you for trying this. Most people don't even try that. So first of all, the reason they are your role model, it is a lifetime of work why they are your role model today. You are not going to be reaching there in one small step or two small steps and so on. It will take you a long time to get there. Yeah, enlarge this slide, please. So let me give you this example. Who are my role models? And you will see how that worked, right? So after my PhD, right, my first goal was I wanted to be number one in my field, period, in the world. That was my goal. Krishna, this talks about the depth as well. So every example I give you will have multiple things to learn from. So I said, okay, who is the best guy in this today? So there was a guy named Aviram Bar Cohen, an Israeli guy who was professor at University of Minnesota. I said, boss, this is the number one guy. I want to be like him. Okay, so he became my role model. I read all his books. I read his thesis. I read anything I could get about him. I started going to the conferences where he was presenting. I would talk to him after that. And slowly, while I was doing that, I was continuously building my own depth in this field. And so I was also presenting papers and so on. And I was also getting recognized. So slowly I reached up to him. And then to cut the story short, I became number one in my field as well. That is how I connected to Steve Jobs. So he was, from academic point of view, I was number one from industry and application perspective. So he was my first role model. My second role model was Larry Moresco, my manager at HP and Cisco, HP and Fujitsu. I learned innovation from him. And that is how we got 6 patents and so on. Then I wanted to move towards entrepreneurship. So I connected to Prakash Bhalerao. Prakash Bhalerao is a person who is in Silicon Valley, has had multiple billion-dollar exits. And I started reading about him. I started no LinkedIn, and these things were not there. So you would have to actually go the hard way and find the contact and so on. And I finally met him. And he was surprised to see how much I knew about him when I met him first. And he said, how do you know all this? And I said, look, you are my role model. Now, that is very powerful statement. Now, he said, what can I do for you? He was very, humble person, but he said, what can I do for you? And I said, look, I want to go into entrepreneurship. And this is my thought. And he started teaching me entrepreneurship. Then I came to Dell's, and after entrepreneurship, I came to big companies. Krishna will know Jeff Clark, who is vice chairman of Dell. He was my role model there. Michael was there. John Chambers was role model. I'm still in touch with most of these people. Rahul Dravid, Prakash Padukone, they are great friends as well as role models, the way I described earlier. My father was my role model because of his social activity he did and so on, other than his fatherly role. Now my role model is Dr. Jain, who is Chitkut Eye Institutions. He runs Ramesh Ramanathan, who runs Janagraha, and Sadhguruji, because of my movement of my career. So what you will see here is that as my career moved through different paths, my role models changed. But they didn't change because I wasn't able to achieve something. They changed because I wanted to do something different. But I always had a target for entrepreneur. I have to become like Prakash Bhalerao. I didn't become like Prakash Bhalerao, but at least he was my role model, and I learned some things from him and moved in my path to the next level. I didn't become Michael Dell either, but I moved in that path. I didn't become John Chambers either, but I learned a few things from John, and so on and on. So this is the journey of your role models. You don't get there in one day. And yes, when you look at, when I looked at Aviram Bar Cohen, when I finished my PhD, he looked at as if he was at the mountain. People used to, stop him at the airports, at the conferences. He was a star, like, not like Amitabh Bachchan, but somewhat like that, right? A star. And I would just see him from distance. But within, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years, same situation I had. I was actually hounded on airports and conferences and so on. So they look high. That's why you have them as role model. But if you follow about them, you read about them, you try to become all the things I talked to you earlier about, you actually will get there. You may not get all the way there, but you will get there where you will also be able to achieve some of your goals. And sometimes you will fail. That's part of the game. But don't give up because you failed. I never gave up because I failed. I gave up or moved to another role model because I changed my goals and did something different. So hopefully that addresses your question. Let me address one slide before also. I want to address the question of book. I'm sure somebody has that question, and I want to talk about that. And I think one of you also wanted to know about it. I think Devika asked me that question sometime when she visited me. So let's talk about the books, right? So I said you read 100 books. Which books should you read? All the young people ask me this question. So here is what you go, right? So first of all, you pick up the books on the technical subjects or areas of your interest, or in project management or product management or management of team, whatever you are doing today. You need to know something about it. You need to learn something about it. So I think that's where probably you start. In my journey, after that, I did that. I moved to innovation. So Larry Maresco became my role model, and the books I read was New Age of Innovation, The Innovator's Dilemma, 8 Steps to, so many books on innovation I read before I did my own innovation, right? Then I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and then I started reading, and these were difficult to find at that time. You would go to a library and then look for books and some guidance and so on. Today, what do you have to do? Entrepreneurship. The top 10 books on entrepreneurship, Amazon gives you in 30 seconds, not even 30 seconds. So then I was interested in entrepreneurship. I read Startup Nation, 0 to 1, Hard Things About Hard Things. Leadership, then I became interested in Stephen Covey, Elephant Can Dance by Lou Gassner, Jack Welch. Leaders I admire, these are my role models. So John Chambers, I read his book, Connecting the Dots. Satya Nadella, I read recent book. Narayan Murthy's book, Make Better India, Make Better World. Nandan's book, or Reimagining India. Michael Dell's book, Steve Jobs' book, etc., etc. Venture capital, same things I did. Spirituality, same thing I did. Autobiography of Yogi is a phenomenal book. Inner Engineering by Sadhguru is a phenomenal book. A $1 Trillion Coach is very highly recommended for you, Krishna. It's about a coach that coached the CEOs of Google, Microsoft, and so on. So you will wonder, do these guys need a coach? I mean, you are running the most successful company in the world, and you need a coach? Well, Bill Gross was the coach, the guy who has written the book. It's called $1 Trillion Coach. So that will open your eyes that even these guys need coach. So financial, I was interested in. I read a bunch of books on finance, and then Built to Last, Peter Drucker's book, Blink, so many books, right? So the goal I'll give to people, start with 10 books. Goal, do that in whatever time it takes. 20 books, 50 books. At 50 book, you will be a different person. At 100 book, you will be a completely different person. You would have gone 1 or 2 orbits ahead in your evolution.